Glen Coe is a glen of volcanic origins, in the Highlands of Scotland. It lies in the north of Argyll, close to the border with Lochaber. It is often considered one of the most spectacular and beautiful places in Scotland, and is a part of the designated National Scenic Area of Ben Nevis and Glen Coe. The narrow glen shows a grim grandeur. The glen, approaching from the east on the main A82 road, is surrounded by wild and precipitous mountains. Further west at Invercoe, the landscape has a softer beauty before the main entrance to the glen. The main settlement is the nearby village of Glencoe located at the foot of the glen. The name Glen Coe is often said to mean Glen of Weeping, perhaps with some reference to the infamous Massacre of Glencoe which took place there in 1692. However, Gleann Comhann does not translate as Glen of Weeping. In fact, the glen is named after the River Coe which runs through it, and bore this name long before the 1692 incident. The name of the river is believed to predate the Gaelic language and its meaning is not known. It is possible that the name stems from an individual personal name, Comhan. Geography. The glen is U-shaped, formed by an Ice Age glacier, about 16 kilometers long with the floor of the glen being less than 700 m wide, narrowing sharply at the pass of Glen Coe about halfway along. The entrance to the glen from above is on Rannoch Moor to the east, below the mountain of Muiread. Glen Etive runs to the south from nearby. The entrance to Glen Coe is marked by Etive Moor, the great herdsman of Etive at the junction with Glen Etive. Glen Coe then runs roughly west for about 12 kilometers before turning northwest towards Lochaber. The south side of the glen is marked by a succession of distinct peaks. Etive Marsquare is followed to the west by Etive Beag, then by the Three Sisters, shoulders of the Bidean Nambian Massif which itself marks the western end of the glen. By contrast, the north side of the glen is a stark wall of mountain, the Annachiagat Ridge. The ridge is crossed at the eastern end by the Devil's Staircase, an old military road opposite Etive Marsquare. To the north of Etive Marsquare, there is Bay na Crwlast. The western end terminates with the conical pap of Glencoe, above Glencoe village, at the point where the glen opens out to Lochaber. The River Coe itself Ocean's dark cone rises at the northeastern base of Etive Beag and flows west along the glen, with dramatic waterfalls at the pass of Glen Coe. It then runs through the small Loch Actriotan before it turns northwest. It then passes through Glencoe village, shortly before flowing into the sea loch of Lochaber at Invercoe. Loch Actriotan is Loch Trichardon in Timothy Pont's map of the area. In the glen to the east of Etive Beag, the River Coe runs north to the head of the glen, but it swings east round the Etive Marsquare to join the River Etive running south. Geology. Geologically speaking, Glen Coe is the remains of an ancient supervolcano. It is considered to be one of the best examples of subsidence calderas. The eruption happened about 420 million years ago during the Silurian period, and the volcano has long since become extinct. The landscape was further shaped by the processes of glaciation during the last ice age, 10,000 years ago. Ownership. Glen Coe was originally part of the lands of Clan Donald, though since the ending of the clan structure they have progressively sold off their estates. Most of the glen is now owned by the National Trust for Scotland, whose visitor centre has displays about both the natural and historical significance of the glen. Lord Maurice Hurrell FCII, was a certified, part owner from December 2012 and also part owner of the land around Dunans Castle, Glendarrell, Argyll and Bute. The land was purchased by the NTS in the 1930s using money donated by the Scottish Mountaineering Club. It was later found out that most of the money came from the SMC's then chair, Percy Una. He laid out a number of conditions, known as the Una Principles regarding how the NTS should manage the estate with regards to access and maintaining the wild nature of the land. The building of a visitor centre caused some controversy, as some felt this to be a contravention of Una's principles. The original centre was later closed, and a new one built further west, down the glen on land not part of the original purchase. The last area of Glen Coe to be owned by the MacDonalds was the area around Invercoe. In 1894 Donald Alexander Smith, First Baron Strathcona and Mount Royal purchased this area and built a stately mansion, Mount Royal. In 2002 Alistair MacDonald of Glencoe made a successful 11th-hour bid, and purchased the remaining lands of Lord Strathcona from his descendants. Alistair received unsecured loans from just 6 donors, and immediately set up the Glencoe Heritage Trust, a non-profit making charitable trust, to secure the heritage of Glen Coe. Tourism, walkers and climbers. Glen Coe is a very popular tourist destination, partly because of its scenic qualities and historical associations, partly because it is on the main road north, and also because of its attraction for walkers and climbers. It is famous for the quality and variety of its winter climbing, most of its routes being comparatively easy to access from the main road. Many walkers come to Glen Coe on the West Highland Way following the old military road over Rannoch Moor which crosses the River Etive at the King's House Hotel. From there it is about 2 kilometres to the head of the glen, then about 2 kilometres into the glen the way ascends the Devil's Staircase, a steep, boulder-strewn cut, which is part of the old military road and drove road north across the hills to Kinlochleven. For hill walkers there are several good routes on the Baidean Nambian Massif which forms a complex Y-shaped hill with several lesser tops, including Stob Collier Screamch which also has Munro status. One attractive way into these tops ascends from the pass of Glen Coe up along the hidden Glen, Coe Garbhale, to the ridge. Both Bochaeletiv Beag and Bochaeletiv Mar Squared are also offer opportunities to hill walkers. Rock climbers concentrate on the Bochaeletiv Mar Squared are, often called simply the Buchle, and on the various routes on the Three Sisters. For adventurous experienced walkers, the finest mainland scramble in the UK is the Annachie Ugach. This extended scramble boasts 2 of Scotland's trickiest Munro Hills, Scornamfioned and Meeldeag. The Annachie Ugach Ridge terminates at the Pap of Glencoe. The Glencoe Ski Centre, also known as the White Corries, is on the hill of Meelabuirid which is on the east side of Glen Etive, outside Glencoe proper. This centre is popular with locals and is used by many skiers from the Glasgow area as the nearest ski resort at under 80 miles from the city centre. It forms part of the Black Mount Estate, which is based on Loch Twiller which is to the southeast. Other points of interest include the study at the pass of Glen Coe, the Cave of Ossian, where tradition says that he was born. The Iona Cross was erected in 1883 by a MacDonald in memory of his clansmen who perished in the Massacre of 1692. There is car parking at the Scenic waterfalls in the pass of Glen Coe, which was used as the location for the Bridge of Death, and the Gorge of Eternal Peril in filming Monty Python and the Holy Grail, attracting Monty Python pilgrims. Sets for the third Harry Potter film, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, were built near to the bottom of Clachaig Gully, north of the Clachaig Inn. There are also some shots of the Eastern Glen, including Bochaeletiv Mar Squared are in Scafell, but that was mainly filmed in Glen Etive. There is a folk museum in Glencoe village. Settlements, tourist accommodation. Other than a few scattered farms, the only settlement in Glencoe is the village of Glencoe, which lies at the western end of the glen close to Invercoe where the river joins Loch Leven. About 2 kilometres to the west, on the southern shore of the loch, is the village of Ballachulish, known in the past for its slate quarries, which have been worked since 1760. The famous Clachaig Inn, a pub with a nearby campsite Red Squirrel Campsite Glencoe much favoured by climbers and hill walkers, is sited at the bend in the glen about 3 kilometres from Glencoe village. A Scottish Youth Hostels Association hostel is sited about 2 kilometres from the village, on the way to the inn, as well as an independent hostel. The King's House Hotel, lying about 2 kilometres to the east of the head of the glen towards Rannoch Moor, is a relic of the old coaching days when it was customary for tourists to drive from Ballachulish via Tyndrum to Loch Lomond. This old inn still welcomes visitors, and thrives on the tales of walkers and skiers, as well as climbers down from the glen's peaks. One can also stay in the Glencoe Inn, located in the heart of Glencoe village. For campers, there are 3 official campsites in and around the glen. Wild camping is permitted in certain areas of the glen, in accordance with the Scottish Outdoor Access Code and the principles specified by Percy Una. However, environmental concerns and increasing pollution of the River Coe in the mid-1990s led to a decision to exclude a specific area and prohibit wild camping within that area. The area is to the east of the Clutchaig Hotel, from the River Coe to the Ananachi, and east as far as the junction of the old military road and the modern A82. The exclusion has led to improvements being observed in the river and the Clutchaig area. Well-known residents of Glencoe include Hamish Mackins, veteran of Mount Everest expeditions, climbing consultant for such films as The Eiger Sanction and a mountain rescue pioneer. Mythology. Glencoe is supposed to have been the birthplace of Ossian according to John Cameron, a local bard who was also bard to the Ossianic Society. In the middle of the vale runs the roaring stream of Cona, the mountain of Mama rises on the south side, and the celebrated Dunfin the hill of Fingal on the north. Several of the names referring either to the heroes of the Fingalian race, or to their general occupation, hunting, are numerous in the district. Sgur Mamfian, the mountain of the Fingalians. Coe, the name of the river is supposed to be the Cona of Ossian. Grian and Dyrduil, the sunny place of Darth Ula. Achernan Con, the field of the dogs. Caelas Nan Con, the ferry of the dogs, and the neighbouring country bear similar traces. Morven is the peculiar name of Fingal's domain. An island in Loch Etive is supposed to be named from Usnoth, the father of Nathos. And Etive itself is named from the deer of its mountains. Gallery. See also, 2009 Bochael Etive Marsquared ar Avalanche, Carmina Marsquared Biana, a famous Gaelic song about Glen Coe, Bochael Etive Marsquared ar, Baine Crulanist, Three Sisters. References. External links, Glencoe Scotland Tourism, Glencoe Walks, National Trust for Scotland's Glencoe site, scottclimb.org.uk, Glencoe, Scottish Youth Hostels, Glencoe, Fire, Ice and Blood, documentary, aerial photo of Glencoe, engraving of a view of Glencoe by James Fitteler in the digitised copy of Scotia Depicta, or the Antiquities, Castles, Public Buildings, Noblemen and Gentlemen's Seats, Cities, Towns and Picturesque Scenery of Scotland, 1804 at National Library of Scotland, the Glencoe Inn.